Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. Let me make sure we're all good here. Yes, we are. All right. Hi. Welcome to Critical Q&A number 516 in this year of our Lord 2025. Here we are coming up on mid-October. Make sure we're all good. Yes, I think we are. Let's go ahead and switch over to the host and chat screen here. And let me get the Q&A box set up as the very first thing here. Please put your questions here. I'll answer them. All right. Start that Q&A. So that should now be evident to you there on the box. Let me slide this guy over here so I can see as the questions come in. All right, good. Now we're all set up with that. Thank you. Thank you for the shirt. Okay, I have some not so great news to share to start the show this week, because you guys know how personal I am with you all here as to what happens in my life. And I share my little doggy Benson with you guys every week with our Benson cam. And I'm not able to do that this week because our little doggy has run off. He got through a hole in the fence through no fault of anybody. He created it. He worked on it. And he is a free spirit. You know Benson. He's out there being a very, very free spirit. He was always just loved. He loves life. I'm not going to talk about him in the past tense because I think he is still out there alive, being taken care of by somebody, but not us. And we have been missing him all week. Mel has organized a little search party today. We have done everything, literally everything. We went around to all of the animal shelters. We drove all around to them yesterday physically to actually physically check it out, make sure everything was that we could do. We've been doing. We've gone through the neighborhood. We put up posters. We have talked with people, made all the phone calls, updated his chip, did all the things. We've paid a little bit of money to somebody on social media to post pictures of him in the geographical region around our home, on social media, next door, all of the sites. Mel has been absolutely amazing in how she just dives into finding all the things that can be done. And so today some friends are coming over and they're going to hang some door posters, some sort of, we made some little flyers and we're putting them in these little baggies, and they're going to take them around the neighborhood and try to just see if anybody has seen him, heard from him, knows anything about where he might have gone, because he just took off in the middle of the day. And, there's no evidence we could find that he was hurt. Benson, he has, he had a collar with our phone numbers. We're of course putting those all over the neighborhood now. So that's what's happening there. Anyway, we're pretty distraught. We're pretty broken up about that. So I'm not going to get into too long of a roll on all of that, but I did want to let you all know that it happened. It was not a great week here. It's been very lonely and very still, very quiet here during the day when I'm working. On that note, work is going great, by the way. I've been carrying forward on the book, and that is carrying forward wonderfully. I'm making great progress on it. Very, very happy about that. Very, very happy about the the feedback I've been getting and the thinking moving forward on the REM model, the reason, emotion, morality layers of our psyche that drive our behavior. I'm very, very excited about that model, and I've been doing some good stuff putting that together and talking about it and going on other people's shows and talking about it and getting feedback on it. And I hope you guys will check out the shows that I've done on that. If you haven't seen them, I'm very keen for people's opinions, ideas, and feedback on that. So please throw it my way. Yeah, just saying some of your, yeah, Charlie Barker. Oh, God, that's just the best. It's just the best name. Okay. Um, yeah. So it's okay. It's okay. We're gonna do the show here. Things move on, but I just wanted to share that news with you guys because yeah, it's pretty sad. Um, so okay, let's see if there was any other things. No, I've been really busy with work lately. Things have been busy in a real good way. So that's cool. Um, so anyway, so there's that. All right, so let's go ahead and get into answering your questions. Oh, actually, before we do that, I don't have any preset questions this week. So if you have questions for me during the week that you want to throw my way, you can always email me at askchrisshelton@gmail.com. That's an email, askchrisshelton@gmail.com. I probably talk too fast, but anyway, you can always email me there and throw questions or comments my way about my work here or things you want to know about. Okay, such as the bystander effect. The bystander effect is when you presume someone else is going to do something in an emergency. Oh, I thought you were going to do it. I thought, wait a minute. When something terrible is happening in a public setting, we can experience a kind of shock and mental paralysis. That is very, very true. You know, people often talk about how this fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, and how, well, I know, when I don't understand why these guys don't, because if I were in that situation, and then the emergency actually happens, and only then do you really know how you're going to act, because you don't necessarily have full control over your fight, flight responses. If there's an emergency situation, presume to be the one who will help. There we go. Step up, right? That resolves that fallacy right away. Bystander effect. So there's another bit of logical, critical thinking for you. All right. Yeah. Thanks, guys. Yeah, we're going to do the show today, but I'm just telling you, a little piece of me is missing right now. Okay, so let's get to your questions here. First one. Okay, here we go. Rob Brownjohn. Hi, Chris. Amazing job on the Chase Hughes video with Zach. Thank you very much. I really, really, really enjoyed the podcast this week that we did. Thank you. I'd love you to do one on Joe Dispenza's New Age grift and his LGATs. He was a member of Ramtha's School of Enlightenment too. Oh, great. Okay, great. Yeah, we should dive down those rabbit holes. I've heard that name, Joe Dispenza, but I've not spent any real time learning about who he is enough to remember anything significant about him. I don't have any bookmarks really in my head around that man, but I remember that name. So I'll have to dive into that. And he, I guess, was doing some kind of new age, large group awareness training stuff, huh? Yeah. What an interesting fad. Just to comment on this for a second. The large group awareness trainings. It's a thing that still happens, of course, but it's toned down compared to how it was in the 70s and 80s when they were filling arenas with people. I don't really know that that's happening anymore in our times. Certainly since COVID. I don't know that these guys are doing that. I guess I'd have to look. I know Grant Cardone certainly fills up halls and stuff, or at least it looks like he does. I mean, maybe not. We're really only seeing the cameras on the stage more often than the audience. But I don't know. It feels to me like we're in a time where that has run its course, and we're now pursuing more online models, or or a different way of tackling people in real life. And I'm thinking personally, for what it's worth, and this isn't part of what you're bringing up here, Rod, but since my mind is going there and I'm going to comment on it, that I'm thinking that we're going to be seeing a lot more religious, fervent-based cultic activity in the coming years. check back in 10 years and see if I was right or not, right? But I think we're moving in that direction. I think we're moving to a more spiritual, religious-oriented cult phenomena. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe there'll be some big new thing, but VR didn't really pan out to be much, and technology isn't really doing it. You know what I mean? The whole Scientology, techno, spiritual enlightenment thing, it's kind of, I don't know. People don't really seem to be sold on it, Anyway, yeah. All right, let's carry on here. OBG Foster, how much of anti-scientific hokum in the wild came from Scientology? Oh, so much. Yeah, a lot. L. Ron Hubbard put down science in a lot of different ways, in a lot of different places. I was just thinking through like different ways he would do that. He was good. Hubbard was good at spinning some one-liners in the direction of lobbing some missiles in the direction of psychiatry and physics and stuff. It's always ribbing them. But I don't know how much of an effect, now that I really think about it, I don't know how much of an effect Scientology has had in the big wide world on anti-science rhetoric. I think we have seen far more damage, far, like exponentially more damage in the science communications world from the anti-vax scare, the autism scares, the COVID scares, right? The vaccine scares. I think that those things have been the source of a lot more of the anti-science hokum, as they say. And there's an earlier beginning on that, which is your 9/11 truthers, and how they were anti-science to the degree that they were like refuting the officials and scientific testimony of, on the buildings and the explosions and the airplanes and the fuel and all the stuff with that. Remember how much controversy those guys could rile up about all of that? How could it possibly be, that a jet could crash into a, building and the thing wouldn't fall over, this, that, the other thing. Just constant arguing back and forth between lay people who really didn't have any idea what they were talking about and professionals, engineers, science professionals, right? So there was a great deal of controversy around the 9/11 stuff. For years that went on. And I think that's a far bigger contributor to the general discourse, the general situation of, what are people talking about at their kitchen tables, e-meters or, 9/11, right? Well, they're probably talking about 9/11 before they're talking about e-meters or Scientology or any ideas that L. Ron Hubbard had about, brainwashing or anti-science or psychiatry or anything like that. Even the anti-psychiatry conversations that make it into people's dining rooms or kitchen tables are not based around CCHR. There's bigger anti-psych groups than what Scientology is doing. I just don't think they've really had that big of an impact on the conversation at large compared to some of these other much larger influences on this whole anti-distrust, right, of our institutions, of our scientific institutions. So I just wanted to say that to start with, right, is it's probably not that big of a thing compared to these other things. And I'm trying to think of, what sort of things are you going to find out in the wild that are uniquely Scientology? And I think to myself, silent birth. Now, there's something that you will find propagating for reasons that go beyond Dianetics out there, that people will insist on silent birth and maybe not know that, you know, is probably came out of Dianetics. And at least that's the first place and only place I know of where they push this concept of silent birth, right? Because you usually want to prevent the engrams. So, you know, so I could see it along those lines. I could see that being a kind of pseudoscience that's running around out there, or anti-science stuff. And it's not even anti-science, is it? Right? Silent birth. It's more of really just kind of a Dianetics way of having babies, you know, to try to keep the kids safe, right? It's really not anti-science as such. I guess when it comes to that, you're going to have your CCHR anti-psych stuff. I think that's really where your anti-science stuff is going to have spread. If there's, yeah, even if Scientology is not the big player on the block, when it comes to the anti-psych fight, they've certainly given a lot of ammunition to that fight. I think they have something like 12 or 13 different documentaries that they have produced against psychiatry, from, you know, overdrugging of kids to electroshock stuff to history of psychiatry, the industry of death, all of the, like, just tons of, there's stacks of documentary work that they've done. And I think that stuff propagates out in the wild, probably more so than anything else Scientology has to put out there when it comes to anti-science. So there's a big, long, rambling answer to finally arrive at, yeah, probably the psych stuff, you know? Yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's what I got for you today. All right, let's carry on here. Xion asks, Zach Elwood mentioned Chase Hughes taking a supplement for his temporal lobe epilepsy. I've seen JFK Jr. drink a blue liquid. What do you know about Methelyne Blue? Well, you know, I don't know anything about Methelyne Blue except that it's what Chase Hughes promotes in order to improve brain chemistry or function or something. And he claims that this Methelyne Blue stuff has helped him with his TLE, I guess. I mean, that's as much as I've seen or heard from him directly on that. I didn't spend the, you know, hours and hours diving down Chase Hughes' discussions of that, so I'm not sure how deep he went in his descriptions of what Methelyne Blue is, but I only had that passing familiarity with it. So would I be shocked if RFK Jr. was drinking, you know, Star Trek blue drinks, you know, for some health concerns or something? No, I wouldn't be. Wouldn't be surprised by that at all, actually. Now that I think about it. OBG Foster has here reason, emotion, morality. Which Star Trek episodes demonstrate that? Oh gosh, so many. There's a, I don't remember the titles. One moment, please. Sorry, I just have to see what Balance of Terror is. A strategic cat and mouse battle between the USS Enterprise and a Romulan vessel equipped with a cloaking device. This was first season, of Star Trek original series. So I will say that that is a great episode for seeing emotional dilemmas, some moral dilemmas, and certainly Kirk bringing his A game against an opposing ship captain on the Romulan side who's bringing his A game, and, you know, sort of having this space battle. between them, right? During the whole course of the show. That's what the whole show is. And it was quite good. It was quite good. And I thought it demonstrated every layer of the REM layer model pretty well. Another one that comes to mind was, oh my gosh. I mean, see, I think actually, I mean, the more I start having Star Trek going through my mind, the more I'm thinking that the REM model really is at the core of Star Trek. I mean, isn't it? It's the triumvirate, right? And it's really, you know, what I talk about with Star Trek all the time, right? You have Kirk, Spock, and Bones, right? Dr. McCoy, and they represent these three values and the interplay between them. And it's really quite something, isn't it? You know, to kind of compare it that way, because in a way, every Star Trek episode has some REM lesson or moral core to it, you know, or theme to it. Theme, that would be a better way of saying it than moral core. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Katie Dotson's posting some stuff here about this Methelyne Blue stuff. Yeah. Interesting. Thank you for sharing that, Katie. And yes, OBG Foster, that's exactly right. Morality plays. These are the old, you know, the old everyman stories. These are the, you know, this is old storytelling, right? It's like, what should we be doing? How should we be resolving our dilemmas? How should we be relating to one another? How can we do this whole human existence thing better and smoother with one another? That's what these morality plays are all about, is dealing with the real quandaries of life. And this is why I think Star Trek had such an impact on me as a young man, as a kid, really, you know, growing up watching them on Channel 5 in LA on the reruns, and just, you know, just really getting hit with some really awesome storytelling as a young lad, you know, and just like, this is how I should be dealing with life, you know, and here we are. Anyway, love the Star Trek for that. Here's a great question. X-Cyan, did you ever believe that an OT could read your thoughts? Yes, I did. Yes, I was absolutely convinced that my mom could sometimes read my thoughts. And then by extension, I thought that and was told that OTs have telepathic powers or abilities, right? I mean, if my mom had it, then other people, you know, maybe my dad, maybe other people. And I never really thought about it in terms of, well, they could read the words I was thinking. I mean, sometimes when I thought I was about to get busted for something, I would think my parents could actually just read it, like literally read me like a book. They could. My parents were amazingly, well, I thought my parents were amazingly insightful. They weren't, but I thought they were, because they could read me, right? And of course, you know, when they make you and you're around them all the time, and they know you better than you know yourself, of course they can read you, right? You're their kid. So I never, you know, I didn't really put kind of two and two together when I was growing up. So I was always amazed at how insightful my parents were and how they always seemed to be able to read me so easily. And that contributed to the idea that OTs can read your mind. And so I actually, one does follow the other, in my case, growing up in Scientology. And so I believed that my godfather could, you know, had some telepathic powers. He was the senior CS in Santa Barbara when I was working there. And interestingly, though, when I got to the Sea Org, that all went away. I never imagined anybody in the Sea Org was actually reading my mind. That's interesting, isn't it? Because I very, very, very much thought that was the case when I was a younger Scientologist. But somehow when I hit my older years, you know, late 20s on up, yeah, I stopped thinking that way. I don't remember anything breaking me of that habit particularly, or anybody telling me, that they can't read your mind. I mean, there wasn't anything like that. If anything, the opposite. But I guess maybe, I don't know, maybe I just stopped taking it so literally, or taking that idea so... Yeah, what it became was a different, it morphed a little bit, if you're interested. I'll just be real fast about this, but it morphed a little bit from, yeah, they could read me like a book, to more of kind of what I gleaned from what I thought David Miscavige was able to do, which was more of an idea of, if this matters, this is such a silly difference, but like permeating your space and knowing what you're up to that way. I guess it's the same thing. I guess in effect it's the same thing, but I thought of it differently. And so I guess yeah, I guess the difference is going from reading your mind to just knowing what you're up to. Like I said, if that matters, but that's, yeah, I definitely did think those things the whole time I was in. Whole time. Angry Chode, do you like buffets? Yes, I do. I love buffets. If so, what kind? Well, there's a place here in Denver that is an Italian buffet style eating, and it's awesome. They got the spaghettis, and they got the pastas, and they got the sauces, and they got the breads, and they got the desserts, and they're all on these buffet lines. It's this big Italian, forgot what it was called, but we went there once or twice. A little pricey, but that's good stuff. Otherwise, I like country buffets. I like the steaks and what's the name of the Golden Corral? Can't say I love Golden Corral. The quality of the food ain't great. But that style, the style of buffet eating, is what comes to mind for me, is stuff like Golden Corral. What do you think about Criminon? I think Criminon is a good idea. Maybe. Giving somebody in prison a moral foundation or set of ideas as expressed in the book, The Way to Happiness, which is, as I understand it, kind of what the Criminon program is based around. It's a mail-in remote course lesson plan kind of thing where you go through the Way to Happiness book and when you're in jail and you're a criminal, maybe some of that stuff is actually really new information to you, or stuff that, just hadn't really occurred to you before. Now you're looking at it in a new way. But it's really, it's a good idea in the same way that telling people to turn the other cheek is a good idea, or, hey man, can't we all just get along, is a good idea. Like, it doesn't have there's no weight to it that brings any real, guarantee of change or growth or difference, because a person's going to read these books or contemplate these ideas. But it's not a bad idea. I mean, it's not like, and otherwise, what else are you going to do with your, file this under, what are you going to do with your time in prison? You got all this time, right? What are you going to do with it? Learn, spend some time learning some shit that might help you. Sure, right? The fact that Scientology is doing it, that they bring all these other expectations, that it's, that they're really only interested in money in the end. So really, what you come down to is it's a group of a few people in the world who are volunteering to write letters to people in prison and help them, sort out some concepts around ethics and morals. I mean, that's kind of what Criminon really ends up. When you get down to the rubber meets the road of what's actually going on with Criminon, as far as I know, that's the deal. And that's all there is to it. It's as I understand it. So, so that's kind of how I think about it, or what I think about it is, it's kind of like, it's not really much of a thing I think about much at all, because it's really barely happening. at all? You know, I mean, I think we could probably list out on one piece of paper the number of people who are actually working on doing that work in prisons with you know, through a Criminon program. So yeah, probably not much. All right, and can you describe what it is and what it's supposed to do? Oh, well, there you go. I just did. Yeah. So that's my understanding of the Criminon thing. You know, if you're gonna, I happen to learn a little bit about some of this over the last couple of years. I don't know a lot about prison rehabilitation programs or reform. I know a little bit, but not a lot. And I know that there's a lot to know. And if you really, really wanted to know about criminal reform, and you're going to be diving into very serious academic work and big books and a lot of research and a lot of work that's been done on this topic in different places in the world, and they have different approaches. And the different approaches matter. It's really interesting how, you know, Canada or Australia will deal with prisoners, or Norway or Sweden or Switzerland will deal with prisoners, versus how we do. You know, the slave system in America never really went away. It just went, you know, just went to the prison system. And we treat our prisoners in the most inhumane ways possible. I mean, it's really quite gross. And prison reform, the idea that you're going to send people there and they're going to come out and they're going to be, you know, well-adjusted or be, you know, able to, you know, plug back into society. You know, we're not even, I don't think we can remotely say that we're there. But there's more done on that than you might imagine. I mean, I was always amazed when I dived down those rabbit holes, how much had been done, how many programs had been put together, and how effective they could be if they received good funding and good oversight and decent regulation. But if you get some wild Yahoo psychos running the thing, or some people who aren't interested in rehabilitating prisoners, they're just showing up for the paycheck, or they're just kind of, you know, showing up and filling out their daily forms, but not really doing the work of trying to rehabilitate these people, then of course it's going to fail. And if people can't work together well, and working together in a prison is hard, given the population of people you're working with who are very far from cooperative all the time, it has unique and difficult challenges. Very, very unique and very, very difficult. So I feel for people who are trying to do prison reform and rehabilitation for real, and really roll up their sleeves and get to it. And when you look at the amount of effort and time and resources necessary to actually do the work, and then you look at Criminon, I mean, it's a joke. It's not. It's a feather in the breeze, you know, compared to the amount of real work that needs to be done to bring about prison reform and prison education and rehabilitation. So that's my hot take on that one, I guess. But yeah, I think that's where that's all at. Okay. Ooh, Xen, what's your favorite recipe? Ooh, that's a good question. Ooh. Okay, I'm going to say my favorite one, not the one that I'm best at making, but the food that so good. Jelly glazed ribs. Right? You get a rack of ribs and you get them all cooked up real good. Even the best is if you can get them slow cooked all day, right? You're just smelling up the whole house in those like spicy, tasty, oh, so salty. You know, you get this nice rack of ribs, just slow cooked all day, right? You get them in there for like 7-8 hours. Oh. And then if you can get them out of there and they can hold their shape somewhat, right? And you can get some, you know, some jelly glaze on there and some more spices and get them under the broiler and get them all cooked up and crispy. Oh, it's so tasty. I used to say my favorite meal was sweet and sour sauce chicken, and I really like sweet and sour sauce chicken. But yeah, That's my favorite recipe, is jelly glazed ribs. Yeah. Okay, X-Cyan. Are some people's brains just wired differently than others and need chemicals to bring them to a more neurotypical frame of mind? Yes, apparently that is exactly the case. Yes. I would count myself in that category of people with ADHD. And so, yeah, we are different. Neurodivergent people have neurodivergencies. There are differences in the way that our brains operate. The executive functions operate in a little bit more loosey-goosey way. You know, maybe our amygdalas fire off at slightly different rates. Maybe our, you know, hippocampi deliver messages in a slightly different language than, you know, neurotypical people. But, you know, the job gets done, but how it gets done and the speed with which it gets done and the efficiency with which it gets done when it comes to all the thinking processes and everything can be quite different. And so you can get some chemical assistance, and sometimes that can be a real nice support system for a person who has neurodivergent issues. And sometimes those chemicals make things not so great. Sometimes they don't have any effect at all. It really depends on the individual and their circumstances and which drug you're talking about, which chemicals. So, you know, for some people, SSRIs are wonderful and life-changing and do amazing things for them. And for other people, it's absolutely positively not. Nope, 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 nope. And they don't want to have anything to do with that. Other people, a stimulant might do it. And they don't want to do SSRIs, but they'll do a stimulant and they'll dive in on that end, right? I think that's what I'm doing with the Jornay. And it works wonderfully for me for exactly what I need it to work for. But it took me a little bit of, you know, playing the roulette wheel to find that out about myself and find out which chemicals are going to help versus which ones aren't going to help or maybe even are going to get in the way. So you got to go in with your eyes open and knowing what you're getting into, right? That this is going to be it's a side quest in life, you know, to find the right chemicals if such chemicals exist for you. Maybe your body is such that, you know, you're not going to get a chemical assist, but you won't know till you try. And, you know, trying can also reveal even more things about yourself as you go through the process. It's all really just kind of trying to pay attention to the voices, you know, the things your body is telling you, keeping a good, you know, developing and creating and monitoring your emotional sense of self, right? And it's all, I think this is all referred to as sort of interoception, right? These sort of internal monitors of emotion, of physical state, you know, of body state. And, you know, if you work in those directions, then I think you'll have an easier time of doing this roulette wheel search, right? As opposed to not wanting to think about it and just wanting somebody else to solve it for you or something. That's, you know, unfortunately, you have to be a very active participant in your recovery because it's just the state of things and how things are these days, that's where we're at. There's no, when it comes to being neurodivergent, when it comes to cult recovery, when it comes to getting over, you know, trauma or whatever, it's, you know, we're still in the weeds, and you got to kind of take ownership for your path. Yeah. Okay. Just kind of went in that direction for some reason, but okay. Anthony Spurgeon, what instance of cognitive dissonance you had in Scientology was the most dissonant? Biggest gap between evidence and reality? Ooh, tough question. Hey, New Zealand. Hey, make sure you get your question in the question box, Tyler. I definitely want to check it out. The biggest gap. Ooh, that is a good question. Let me think about this. I'm thinking about L. Ron Hubbard. I think the thing that threw me the most, because I'm thinking to myself, what's the I'm trying to recall, like, what's the moment or the experience or the feeling of, no way, no, there's just no way that's no, come on. Like something like that moment when I was in, right? And what comes to mind is something about L. Ron Hubbard and the Sea Org and the whole We Come Back thing. And the idea that Hubbard, picturology, this idea that Hubbard said that there had been earlier efforts on the track to rehabilitate Thetans, right? And ripping off, pictures, like, one Thetan would just come to another Thetan and just literally steal their mental image pictures away from them, right? I don't know how or what this looked like, but Hubbard said that would happen. And that this was an effort to help the person or something, right? Or that this would be a way of dealing with mental image pictures and the charge and mass of that, right? Because Hubbard has this whole thing about how the reason you're so screwed up is because there's all this energy messing you up around you from your mental image pictures, right? And that was all fine, but the idea that millions of years ago there had been this practice of this, and that somehow tied in with that somehow was that the Sea Org had been around before, and that Hubbard had been fighting this fight for so long that we had all been together before, right? That whole concept, I'm sure you've heard this concept before. It's been communicated many times in different ways, that this was a belief in the Sea Org, right? So maybe we've been around before with Hubbard doing this, the whole loyal officer thing and stuff out of OT3. Maybe that was us. That's the earlier incarnation of the Sea Org. The first time I heard that, I remember having this big gap, this like, what? Like this real kind of a reaction to it. That's what I think of. I mean, I know it's probably not much, but it's, I didn't cover Xenu and stuff when I was in Scientology. I didn't read the OT3 materials when I was still in. When I read them when I was out, I was like, my reaction was not cognitive dissonance, it was anger. But when I was in, I think that whole thing was just, I don't know, for whatever reason, it was a very hard thing for me to buy into. It was easy. It's an easy concept to understand. It wasn't hard to understand. Oh, we've been around before. We come back. Oh, that's what that means. Oh, ha, ha, ha. That whole thing is not any big, huge, like, oh my God, how, I don't even understand. It's very easy to understand, but I just had a hard time accepting it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay, cool. Tyler, like I said, make sure you get your questions in the question box so I can throw them up on the screen here, because I'm not sure exactly what you're asking me there. Okay. Let us carry on here. All right. Xian asks, would you do any self-improvement courses, seminars, or training? That's another good question, because right now my first thought is no. I mean, I do therapy, right? I go to therapy. I have a psychiatrist for my medication. So sure, I'm doing something. But in terms of self-improvement courses, seminars, or training, yeah. Would I? Sure. Okay. Yes, I would, if one were to be presented to me that I was, that I thought I could get something out of. I mean, duh, right? But I'm not looking for any, and I am not thinking that I'm above such things. I'm not at all thinking that. And I'm not thinking that there isn't anything that couldn't help me. I know that there are things out there that could help me. So sure, you know, I just don't want any of the you know, neuro-linguistic programming, pseudoscientific crap thrown my way, right? And it just, when you become I want to say this. When you spend as much time as I spend looking at behavior and looking at people and what motivates them to do what they do, right? And I've spent a lot of time doing that. And whether I'm coming up with right answers or not, or whether I'm, you know, thinking along the right lines or not, I spend an awful lot of time studying this, right? Thinking about this, talking about this stuff. And it's kind of my jam. And so when somebody presents to me that they're going to, you know, that they have this thing that's going to improve people, right? They're really going to have to like show me something interesting. You know, I guess all that just to kind of come off with that, you know, line, but it's just, you know, I'm not easily impressed by anything in the self-improvement space anymore. So it's going to have to be pretty good if I'm going to really go do something like that. But again, not to put myself in some position of like conceit or arrogance, because I swear I really don't feel that way. I know that there are things I could learn, and I'd be happy to. But it's going to have to be real, not, you know. You know how when you get sold and then you finally go do the thing, you pay the money, you get the book, you go to the seminar, you watch the video, and you watch them go through the whole intro and yes, and they start going through and here's what we're going to do about it, yes, and then they finally get to the part where, okay, here's the rubber meets the road moment, here's what you're going to do, here's what you're going to say, here's how you're going to do this, here's how you're going to, you know, enact this change in your life, and they give you some vanilla piece of crap, right? Common sense nonsense, like, you know, oh, manage your time better, or, you know, oh, you should just, you know, talk to people more closely, establish closer relationships with those around you. You know, they get these sort of vanilla platitude almost kind of pieces of advice that they sell, that they hype up so much, and then when they finally deliver it to you, it's really, you know, I think that's kind of the spirit with which I'm sort of thinking about a lot of what I've seen out there. So, you know, so I want more than something goofy and vanilla, you know. All right. Anyway, maybe that's arrogant. I don't know. Anthony, with all the worries about the future of AI, what is one area in life you believe it will undoubtedly improve? AI, as we use the term, and we really misuse the term because there's nothing intelligent about it. Large language models and processing of words is just math at a higher order, right? It's all these words and everything are just numbers and bits to the computer, right? So it's not really thinking in words and concepts and phrases and ideas and philosophical concepts and stuff like that, right? So it's number crunching, and I don't mean to pretend that these complex systems are reduced down to nothing but advanced calculators. I mean, they're complex systems, but they're still just crunching numbers. They're not thinking. They're not calculating the way we do with imagination and survival factors at play, right? There are instruction sets based on circuit boards and pathways and stuff like that, right? It's very I don't want to say dumbed down, but it's just, it's very basic. So I think I say all of that only to stress, right, that I don't know a whole lot that it's really going to undoubtedly improve, other than number crunching, right? Organizing or collating massive amounts of numbers or statistical information or mathematical information. Computers are fucking awesome at that, right? They're really, really good at it, and more power to them to do that work. But when that translates over into language and higher concept thinking and the complexity of life as we live it, right? All it's really doing is being an assistant or aid to our thought processes. And so to the degree that it can simplify routine, that it can present large amounts of information in simplified terms, yet maintain enough accuracy that the decision-making we're doing is adequate to the task, which is going to be, dependent on the task that you're doing. This is how AI, these number crunching machines, this is how these can help, is in these kind of areas. I understand that there's that they've been quite useful in certain medical applications in terms of diagnosing or running down possible diagnoses for things that maybe humans, don't think about or wouldn't think about, but might be possibilities of things, right? That could be useful. Yeah. I think that's how that's going to work out, because this thing's going to crash pretty soon, and at least all red flags, are in the wind right now, are that this AI bubble is approaching popping, and when that happens, it's going to be a problem. So we'll see what kind of future this technology actually has for us once all the hype goes away. I think it's going to be pretty interesting. I think people are going to be a little surprised at how much hype there's been. Let's put it that way. Okay. Xen asks, are you planning to attend the No Kings event in your area this next Wednesday, October 15th? Excuse me. Mel had brought up that there is a protest coming up, but I thought it was next weekend, not midweek. So I'll have to check that out, because we would very likely attend such an event. Yes, I am sure we would do that, but we'll have to check and see when it's going to be, or how that's going to manifest in our region. Xen, I had to have a secret clearance in order to have government defense job. A polygraph test was required about every 5 years. If it doesn't really work, why do they still require it? Because you don't know what it is that the person is actually going to reveal under the pressure of the lie detector. And so that's the value of it, right? Is that it's not only pinpoint or pointing out areas which might be something to explore, and if the polygraph operator knows what they're doing, then they know when they get a little reaction on something that's just something they need to now question you about, dig into, and see if there's anything there. It's not a matter of they're going to absolutely positively uncover all your dirty laundry and dirty deeds that you did dirt cheap, right? Maybe you'll reveal, maybe you won't, but it's a shot at getting you to reveal. And if an employer has concerns, like a government, over secret clearance matters or spy matters or special clearance stuff, then they're going to want to take every shot they can at getting you to reveal, your deep, dirty, dark secrets. Because this is spycraft. If you're in a zone of actual military or government secrets, they're secret for a reason, because it's valuable to somebody, and somebody's willing to pay even money to get it. So this is why every layer of security that you can install between, product and the outside world to keep it contained would be, as far as you're concerned as a government operator, time and money well spent. Who cares if it works? I mean, seriously, that would be the idea with that, right? Who cares? Because it's a chance at getting this person to, to cough up some secrets or something. Not because you're interested in somebody's salacious secrets, but really from the point of view of looking to keep your stuff secure and safe. I mean, from that perspective, any number of security walls would be justified, whether they're porous or solid walls or not, Okay. All right, let's carry on here. Hey, Jono. Jono Nolan, what is your opinion on the 3 barriers to study according to Scientology? Okay, good question. So, I think that misunderstood word is your first barriers to study, right? The things in Scientology that Hubbard says barrier your ability to learn things. Misunderstood words, right? Words, the understanding of words. Well, clearly, if you don't understand the words that you're reading, you're not going to be able to understand what you're reading. That's right. And this is, but understanding is a spectrum-based concept. There's some understanding, more understanding, full understanding, right? So you can have more or less understanding of a thing. So you can read a sentence, and if there's one word in there that you don't have any idea what it means, maybe you can figure out what the rest of the sentence is saying based on what they call the context of the sentence, right? But if it's a key word and it's really doing some heavy lifting in that sentence and you don't know what it means, right? In the sentence, I was hungry. If you don't know what hungry means, you ain't got no idea what this person's actually saying. As opposed to if you don't know what the word blue means and somebody says, hand me that blue folder, well, you're going to have some idea of what they're asking you to do, right? They want you to, there's a folder and they want you to hand it to them. And you just don't know what blue means, right? So you don't know which folder. You guys get the idea right away, of course. So obviously words are important, but are they the single most important thing? And there isn't anything else more important than understanding words. No, there are other things that go along with this. So, and Hubbard really went wild with the words, right? He came up with 10 different ways that a word could be misunderstood. So he really got into the details on how these words can get all screwed up. And sure enough, he's not wrong. If you have a synonym, if you only understand definition 1 of this word, and there are 3 other definitions, and you're all hung up on that first one, and it doesn't fit, yeah, you're going to be confused. Of course you are. I've sorted this out thousands of times with students. So sure, clearing up words is an important thing to do. But I've not found in my time since leaving Scientology, and I've spent years on this, in and out of the church, educating people. So I've not found that the meaning of words is so important in how I get ideas across to people since leaving Scientology that it is even worth commenting on. It's like, yeah, sure, it's there, but make sure you're speaking. It's in the same range as make sure you're speaking English, right? Like yeah, make sure you understand what I'm saying. But that's as far as I have to go with it. I've never had to tell anybody, bust out a dictionary and get to it and let's go through the definitions, since leaving Scientology. I've never even thought about that. Okay. Second barrier to study is lack of mass, not having the thing that you're actually trying to learn about. If you're trying to learn about a car and you don't have a car and you've never seen a car and there's no picture of a car and there's no model of a car and there's no car around, you're going to be a little confused about, what the hell a car is and what it looks like. Somebody could describe it to you in words, but, you know, without a picture, a photo, the thing, it can be hard to learn about. And the more practical the learning you're trying to do, the harder it will be. You know, it would be damn near, you could drive somebody absolutely batshit crazy trying to teach them all about circuit boards and never showing them a circuit board. You know, can you imagine trying to describe to somebody how to build and weld and set up a circuit board and never show them a picture or a description of a circuit board? It's all just, you know, written down. Oh my God, it'd be crazy. So, yeah, the crepuscule is approaching. That's right. So, so I think lack of mass has, again, a validity to it, right? You want to spend the more practical the topic you're talking about, the more you're going to want the mass, right? If you're working on engines, you're going to want an engine in front of you. You're going to want to see these things, you know, so you can clearly see the difference between a transmission and a, you know, the engine belt, right? Like, oh yeah, these are two different things. So I think that could be important. And then the final one is the skipped gradient, right? Where you go too far, too fast, right? You go from grade 1 to grade 4 or something. And, you know, you skip grade 2 and 3 and you're going to fall on your face, right? It's going to be confusing. You're going to be all screwed up. So sure, these are all valid, legitimate things that get in the way of people being able to learn stuff. But to bring it down to, you know, to reduce all of learning to just these 3 things, that's really the big fallacy that Hubbard commits, is not so much that the things he says are so bloody wrong. They're not totally wrong, but the amount of emphasis and importance on them and the lack of attention to the other things that get in the way of people's study, and there's a lot. That's where Scientology loses the plot on all of the study stuff. Yeah. Yeah, the clay table. Oh my God, right, George? Yeah, thanks for bringing that up too. Exactly. You know, the idea that you're going to, you know, go and build these models out of clay, and that's how we're going to deal with this, right? Oh, I'm going to build this big engine out of clay. You know, it's like, go get some Legos or something. I mean, it's the same difference. You know, it doesn't matter. Okay, good. All right, so X sign corrects, and it was, turns out the event is on Saturday, so good. Good. All right. Knew I was right, because I'm always right. You guys just need to catch up. Okay. I think we are coming up on time to maybe start wrapping up the show here. We have run out of questions in the queue, and we've been going at it for about an hour or so. So I think we'll just look at wrapping up today. I think that would be a good idea. I thank you very much for coming around and joining me today. I said today's, you know, not the best day for me. We'll see what happens. If any good news occurs in terms of us finding Benson, I will let you guys know on the community page on my YouTube channel, right? So and if you don't see or hear anything, then that just means that there's no news. So we'll just kind of see what happens with that. I'm going to carry on with my book writing. Lightning, you know, strike while the iron's hot, whatever, the fire's going. I've got some real, like, get up and go right now on getting this book done. I want to get it done this year. I want it out for a Christmas release, actually. And I'm gunning for that right now, and I have it in me. I can feel it that I want to make that happen. So, you know, when I got my when this guy came out, it was a Christmas release. I think it was 2016 that I published this, and 2015. So it was Christmas 2015 that I published this. So here we are, 10 years later. 10 years, Jesus, fuck. 10 years, god damn. I did not mean for it to be that long. So, yeah. So thanks, guys. Thanks for those comments. I appreciate it. So yeah, it's about time that I got my next book done. You know, it's only been 10 bloody years. Anyway, and then I have another one coming right on the heels of that. So, so I'm pretty excited to get that work done. And of course, if you all out there are interested in contacting me directly for assistance, counseling, consultation, I'm not a therapist. I don't pretend to be a therapist, but I do help people in the post-cult world. And I can also, of course, be available for assistance with friends, family, or any kind of help in sorting out anything having to do with cultic control or coercion or influence like that. So feel free to reach out to me if you need anything in regards to those topics, and I can probably help you out. All right. So with that, I will see you guys soon. Thanks for coming around and watching me babble on at a mad rate about all of this. I always appreciate your viewership and your support. Bye-bye.